Mons Silvius, Cervino, Servan, the Matterhorn. In this video, I set out to climb one of the most iconic peaks on the planet, epitomizing both beauty and terror, inspiring the sport of alpinism since the sport's very inception. Standing at 4,478 meters, it's one of the main features of the Swiss Alps, and the mountain that's featured on every screensaver, postcard, and bar of chocolate. In August of 2024, I set out to Europe to see just how challenging this monster was. The adventure began by landing on a Saturday afternoon in Milan, Italy, the fashion center of Italy, which itself is rich with history and classic architecture. This was supposed to be followed by a day to travel to Zermatt, Switzerland, a well over 3-hour journey, and hike up to the Hornli hut the following day. With a crunched schedule due to summertime and thunderstorms, I booked it over from Milan to Zermatt, Switzerland in record time, soaking in the changing landscapes in the process. Like a Disney movie come to life, the historic mountain town of Zermatt lies at the end of the Matter Valley, surrounded by high peaks on all sides. Cars are not allowed in the town, which just further adds to the immersion of a place stuck out of time. But since the climb got pushed a day early, I didn't have much leisure time at all, as I only had a few hours to catch the final gondola, which then led to the start of the trek. The ride up from the Matterhorn Express gondola felt like taking a spaceship from the touristy hustle of Zermatt to the more isolated plateau, where things started to feel real.
We're off on the trail to Hornli Hut.
The hike from the cable car to the hut was about an hour and a half of rolling green hills, and further up a few ladders and steeper sections, all the while in the shadow of the looming giant ahead.
Been on the hike now for about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes or so. I spotted a Hornli Hut up there. Little guy there is where we're going, so I feel like it looks a lot closer than what it is. I'll probably be on this trail for like at least another hour, but we out here. Well, pretty fitting that the mountains just looked like so serene and beautiful and crystal clear and like bluebird skies all day. And then as soon as I get within spitting distance of the peak itself, you got this big, foreboding, scary looking cloud wrapping itself around it. Just, you know, for extra intimidation for an already super intimidating peak. Good God. Made it. Hornli Hut. Hell yeah, dude.
After a 2-hour slog, I arrived at the exquisite Hornli hut, and right away it was time to sit down and discuss the logistics for the climb, which would begin in just a few hours. I had been to several mountain huts in the Alps, Gran Paradiso, Monte Rosa, and even the famous Margarita hut, which happens to be the highest in the world. But this one, as a result of sitting at the base of the most beautiful mountain in the world was definitely top tier. Over on one side, you get tremendous views of the surrounding Alps and the town of Zermatt, sitting way down at the bottom, and on the other, the imposing image of the impossible-looking peak that lies ahead. Me and Tobias met up, discussed gear and climbing expectations over dinner, and prepared for what would ultimately be a few hours of pretending to sleep as the hype for the next day began to sink in. So what exactly are we climbing anyway? This mountain is a near symmetrical pyramid, carved by weather and glaciers over millions of years. Each face is incredibly steep, which made it one of the last peaks of the Alps to be summited during the golden age of alpinism. Led by Edward Whymper, the first team summited over 150 years ago, but on the descent, one of the great tragedies of alpinism occurred when a sudden slip led to the deaths of 4 of the 7 climbers. And because of its isolation and great height, the peak is exposed to rapid changes in weather, which is why climbers start early, to evade the likely chance of afternoon summer storms. We arose at 3:30 in the morning, strapped on our harnesses, and ate a very light breakfast before heading out of the door at 4:20. The only thing we could see in front of us were what our headlamps exposed, so walking up to an immediately vertical ladder, followed by a fixed rope, was more than a nerve-wracking way to officially begin the Matterhorn. For the first half of the climb, between the Hornli hut and the Solvay hut, the route is mostly third-class scrambling. Not overly technical, but still very tiring. Some say it's like climbing 10,000 steps. Generally, mountain climbing is associated with frigid temperatures, but in this case, I was literally dripping sweat out of my helmet within the first hour. When the rays of light finally started to peek over the distant Alps, the vibes became immaculate. One of the funniest moments on the climb was when I got called out for being one of the only Americans on the mountain.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. America first.
Okay.
Let's go.
The reason I had hired my guide Tobias was simple. He had done the Matterhorn over 150 times. Hailing from Austria, he also had successful ascents on peaks such as Denali, Carstens Pyramid, and basically all of the Alps. It was as if he knew every single stone on the peak. And based off my experience with him, I believe he did. Within the first couple of hours, we climbed about 2,400 feet, between the Hornli hut and the Mosley slab. One difference between this mountain and, say, the Cascades or the Rockies is that there's really no time for long breaks. The terrain is too steep, and if a sudden rainstorm or snowstorm were to come, it would be a very slick and unpleasant way back down. Our longest rest came at the Solvay Hut, which lasted maybe 5 minutes, and we were back on our way. The hornli route is very well traveled, but also occasionally misleading. Shifting stones from weathering as well as other climbers can throw the trail off and end up leading a party to some sketchy loose rock, which is why knowing the route is pretty essential.
Well, I thought it'd be like 5 or 6 hours to the top.
Not if you know the route really good.
Yeah, I picked the right guy. You had some great reviews on Explore Share, so
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer. Thanks again, man.
No, but it's more like if you have good conditions here without snow and ice, it's much easier.
Yeah.
If you have to climb all with crampons, harder and also scary.
And he was right. As soon as the snow patches came, things got way scarier. Above the rescue hut, the exposure became unreal, and we soon reached the most dangerous couple of sections on the mountain. Slabs so steep and slick with ice that they now have fixed ropes put in place to offset the risk. It is in this section where most accidents occur, including the infamous tragedy on the first ascent back in 1865. One decision made before the climb was to not bring our ice axes. This was done in order to save weight and because the conditions were reported as them being unnecessary. But it meant that when we did come across snow and ice, such as here when the fixed rope was buried, I would occasionally have to throw my bare hands into the snow for balance. Besides that, the multiple sets of thick ropes took a huge toll on my forearms, which were cramping aggressively thereafter. The final section of fixed ropes was also the steepest. We often went up at a full 90 degrees, using a mix of ropes, chains, and good old-fashioned rock climbing. Leading up to the climb, I literally bought a second gym membership at my local Planet Fitness in order to use their endless row machine, just to be prepared for this area of the mountain. A little extra, yeah, but it worked. Finally, after what felt like 30 ropes, we reached the summit ice field. I was excruciatingly beat, had cramped forearms, and was borderline hyperventilating, but the adrenaline also was in full effect, especially after seeing the statue of Saint Bernard, the patron saint of alpinists, acting as sort of a welcome to the top.
Hey Bernard. Congrats guys.
This here, summit.
Let's go, let's do it now.
The summit of the Matterhorn sits at the top of a ridge that connects the east and west faces of the mountain, and as we made our way across it, it was like walking along a knife's edge. Looking on the left is Italy, and on the right is Switzerland, separated by a 14,600-foot border. Just after 8 in the morning, we made it.
Holy shit. Woo! Here, man.
Yes.
Oh my God. Wow.
You see Chavinia, Italian side,
Yep.
and also at the right side there you see the big white one with Mont Blanc.
That's Mont Blanc. Holy crap. And is that Gran Paradiso?
Gran Paradiso, yeah, exactly.
Monte Rosa, you got like Paris Pizza.
The only real low point of the climb was having my ceremonial naked summit pic get shut down.
And, well, should I do the naked picture?
After first setting eyes on the peak 2 years prior, it did not feel real to be standing on top. A mountain with so much history and recognizable to virtually everyone. There will be more peaks for me, but it's hard to say if any other will be as beautiful as the Matterhorn.
Congratulations, yeah.